right, hello everyone, I'm Kayla, and I started my master's about a year ago with Dr. Uwe Hacke in the field of tree-water relations. So I titled my project Turning Over a New Leaf, and I'll talk briefly today about how leaf hydraulic architecture might be influencing water transport in hybrid poplars. So for those of you who don't have a tree physiology background, you might be asking what hydraulic architecture is. And if you do a Google image search, it'll bring up an idea of an old-fashioned water pump, these industrial pipes, or something we'll all need after today, a beer helmet. But it goes back quite a few hundred years, which I thought was cool. Leonardo da Vinci was the first who documented this relationship between cross-sectional area and the leaves of a tree. So this has kind of evolved over the last few hundred years, but the most pertinent definition from my research was coined by Martin Zimmerman in 1978. So he essentially said that hydraulic architecture is the relationship between hydraulic conductance of the xylem, the water transport element in trees, and the leaves that it supplies. So conductance and leaves are the two main points of my project, so I'll be talking about those a lot. So just remember that. Okay, so, but why leaves? They're really crucial to understanding plant growth overall. They're the site of photosynthesis, and they also control water relations for the whole plant. So this is a series of plants simplified into an electrical circuit analog, and essentially it just shows the major parts of resistance in a plant. So the leaves, stems, and roots. And so previous people in my lab have looked at stems and roots, but I wanted to look at leaves to kind of get the whole picture. So globally, we're seeing an increase in climate and also an increase in drought in Alberta. So one of my collaborators for this project is Alberta Pacific, which is a pulp mill up north, and they work with these hybrid poplars. So they gave me 5 hybrid poplar clones to work with for this research. And then I also chose the 2 pure parent species, aspen and balsam poplar, to look at to see what this hydraulic architecture is like. So they're really concerned about how it might be influencing productivity just from a production standpoint. But I wanted to know from a physiological standpoint why that might be. So the null hypothesis is that there's no relationship between hydraulic architecture and productivity, but I think that there might be one. So hybrid poplars with large vessel diameters and a large or high rate of leaf hydraulic conductance, or essentially efficient hydraulic architecture, will have a high productivity rate. And again, just going back to that idea, hydraulic architecture is combining leaf or conductance and anatomy. So I'm looking at leaf hydraulic conductance and leaf anatomy. And then just as a proxy of productivity, I'm gonna measure stomatal conductance as well, just to kind of understand how my clones are growing in the greenhouse. So again, I got 5 hybrid poplars from Alpac, aspen from Rachel, and then balsam poplar from the River Valley. And I use this relatively new method, the evaporative flux method, but I essentially cut off my leaves and then connected them to this set of tubing, which had a balance right here. And then I put it over a fan and under a bright light, and then I just measured the rate of flow through that leaf. And so then I could use this equation to calculate the leaf hydraulic conductance, and I did that for all of my clones. I also did some anatomy. This is just the experimental, just some of my first exploratory graphs. This shows the distribution of my hybrid poplars and then the pure species, and leaf hydraulic conductance is on the y-axis. So there is quite a lot of variety in between, which I thought was cool since, again, they're really genetically similar. But there's a lot of variety in each species, which when I did histograms was kind of frightening. There was a lot of positive skew in my hybrid poplar data, and then there was a lot of outliers in my aspen, and then even a bimodal distribution in balsam poplar. So I got everything. And I think this is because I had a really low N, an N of 8. Rachel and I always joke about that because Laura says N of 30 is what you want. Anyway, so I think I can transform this, which I'll do for my next presentation. From right now, it looks like log might be the best for all of them, but I'll explore that later. And then lastly, I did a scatter plot, just combining this leaf hydraulic conductance value with a proxy for that hydraulic architecture. And the one thing I measured was vessel diameter. Although I actually haven't measured it, so it's fabricated, but you see this beautiful relationship between the two. And yeah, so from this, I'm concluding that there's a strong correlation between vessel diameter, or hydraulic architecture, and conductance, meaning that hybrid poplars with an efficient hydraulic architecture will have high rates of productivity. And I am still not sure if this is statistically significant. I'm going to go back and do statistics on that once I transform my data. And I just want to thank my supervisors, my committee, and then other members of my lab. And if there's any questions, I'll take them now. Thanks.